Good morning, and welcome to the class of 2023. We're kind of excited that you're here. I am Jennifer Brown, and I am your interim provost. And that makes me the chief academic officer of your university. So, as chief academic officer, I thought I'd talk to you this morning about the two most important things I think you will learn in college. These are things that, in my opinion, most dramatically transform you and help you grow. They are two habits of mind and heart that can sometimes feel like there's a bit of tension between them, but when they are balanced, they are keys to a rich and satisfying life. First, in college, you will learn to be alone. And two, you will learn how to be in community. Now, I am claiming that you will and you must learn how to be alone, because sometimes that's what learning requires. You have to turn off your devices. You have to tune out external stimuli and genuinely focus on the matter at hand. And that is whether that matter at hand is a challenging text, a difficult math problem, your own loneliness or self-doubt, or your own insights about who you are and what your purpose in life might be. Some of you, many of you, do not yet know how to be alone. And that's okay. It's understandable, because you have had the company of parents, siblings, friends, and teachers, but you've also had the company of television, games, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchats, and texts all the time. And so I want to suggest that you set a goal for yourselves, that you get comfortable, really comfortable with being alone every little once in a while, and get to being okay with it, even enjoying it, and drawing from solitude the joys and lessons it offers. Now, I say this because I grew up in a big family. I did a lot of theater in high school. I spent most of my summers waiting tables at a pancake restaurant and counseling at a YMCA camp. And so before I went to college, I was never alone. Never alone, for more than a few minutes at a time. But I realized about 5 years after graduation from college that being alone was probably the most important thing I had learned in college. And it stood me in very good stead through my 20s. Because in my 20s, I navigated law school, I navigated new jobs, moves across the country, and a couple of semi-serious relationships that didn't work out, right? So learning to be alone and to be okay with it and comfortable with it is important. Because, and this is also key, comfort with being alone provides the foundation for the other big lesson that you are going to learn in college. You must also learn how to be in community. Whether that community is a friendship, a romantic relationship, a dorm room, a classroom, a sports team, a religious organization, an international travel group, learning how to balance your own needs and preferences, your individual beliefs and values with the needs, values, and norms of a community is, really, it's one of the textbook definitions of growing up. It's also, I would argue, a good description of what it takes to be a responsible, enlightened, 21st century citizen. And now, you're not always going to enjoy it, and you're not always going to get it right. Because at some point, you may subjugate your own preferences and values in order to fit into a group, and you may feel pretty bad about it later. You may try so hard to fit in that you alienate or even annoy other people, right? You may put your trust in someone who lets you down or betrays you, and you may not feel confident. You may not feel confident that you're speaking in class enough, or you may worry, like, am I dominating the class discussion? Am I getting it right? You'll put yourself out there. You'll share an opinion, and you may feel that somebody shoots it down. So you won't always get it right. But I'm here to assure you that each time you try, you learn. And all of this is normal, and it's okay, too. You have to try to be in community, make connections, share yourself, and receive what others have to give you, and be willing to make mistakes with that. About a week ago, I spoke to our first-year law students, because before I stepped into this job, I was the dean of our law school for 6 years. And I shared with them a quote from G.K. Chesterton, who says, "If a thing is worth doing, it is worth doing badly." Now think about that. If a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing badly. Now, what he meant, I think, is that it's not enough to do something badly. You shouldn't be satisfied with that. It's not that he's trying to say doing something badly is as good as doing it well. What he meant, I think, is that it's impossible to do something well unless you're willing to do it badly at first. So the paradox is that a thing is worth doing badly precisely because you want to do it well. You're working toward doing it well. It matters to you. And learning to be in community matters. It's worth doing. And that means it's worth putting yourself out there, taking risks, doing what it takes to get better at it. So, these are sort of my 2 points to you as your chief academic officer, telling you what you need to learn in college. You're going to learn a lot of things. Challenge yourself to learn to be alone, to gain strength in finding comfort and confidence in solitude. It'll give you the best foundation for the work you will also do to be in community. And if you learn these 2 things over the next 4 or 5 or 7 or 8 years that you're with us, in addition to all the other things you will study and learn, you will be wise indeed and ready to tackle the next challenge in your life. And Quinnipiac will have succeeded in giving you a valuable education. Thanks. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our president of this university, Judy Olien, Quinnipiac's 9th university president. Judy, now in her 2nd year, has brought a dynamic new energy to Quinnipiac, impeccable credentials as an innovator in higher education. She is distinguished in leading higher education institutions and advancing academic excellence, and she is leading us in our collective strategic goal as the University of the Future. Now, prior to joining Quinnipiac, Judy served as Dean of the UCLA Anderson School of Management and the John E. Anderson Chair in Management for 12 years. Under her leadership, UCLA Anderson hired a record number of faculty, it expanded its prestigious board of visitors, and it advanced its philanthropic support for students and faculty, and led the creation of innovative programming and capital improvements. Our president, Judy Olien, is widely published in journals on human resource management, top management team composition, and the business alignment of management systems. She wrote a weekly syndicated newspaper column and hosted a monthly television show on current topics in business. She's a sought-after speaker. She's consulted for major corporations. She serves on the boards of United Therapeutics, Aris Management, and Mattel Corporation, on the advisory board of Catalyst, and as a member of the Business Higher Education Forum. President Olien has a bachelor's degree in psychology from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and a master's and PhD in industrial relations from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She is a native of Australia, and she is married to Peter Liberty. So please join me in welcoming President Judy Olien.
Okay, I'm done with that introduction. Thank you so much for that overly generous introduction. And we are ecstatic to see you here today. I think you probably could tell that from the very, very long introduction of applause and cheering. I know that everyone here, on behalf of the administration, the faculty, the staff, our current students, we are all thrilled to welcome you into the Bobcat family. Now, you've selected Quinnipiac to be your home for the next 4, 5, 7 years. I'd love to compare notes of what drew you each here and how that aligns with what attracted me here. With hindsight of a year, I can say convincingly that for me, and for my husband Pete, and for our dogs, Casper and Qe, that is Q-U-E-Y, it was a fabulous and very wise choice, and my bet is that you'll say the same thing when you end up looking back, whether it's after your first year, second year, or many more years. As we celebrate the start of this new educational journey for you, I'd like to spend just a minute to give you a sense of the incredible peers around you that are joining with you. There's breathtaking diversity among you, so I want you to listen to some of the stats. So your class size of entering first-year students is about 1,600, with about a couple hundred more students that are transferring in at later point, slightly smaller than the last couple of years. Our age distribution, the youngest student is 16 and the oldest is 26. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands of who's who. You have self-identified as 60% female and 40% male. Close to 20% of you self-identified as underrepresented minorities. The most common female names are, you can show of hands if you're this, Julia, Emily, Madison, Emma, and Lauren. So if you're one of those names, you have a few others that are like you. The most common male names are Matthew, John, Michael, Ryan, and Christopher. Okay, if you are that. Collectively, you come from 27 different states and 32 different countries. The top state The top states represented here are Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. But we also have representation from California, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Maryland, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Vermont, Maine, Texas, Wisconsin, and Virginia. Okay. And the top 3 countries represented are Canada, perhaps, I don't know, those hockey players, Thailand, Ghana are the top 3 countries. We also have students from Germany, Guatemala, India, New Zealand, Jamaica, and many more. So I could go on, but you get the sense that you're part of a really interesting group, and there is so much opportunity to learn from each other. And this is part of how we select you and invite you in to the Quinnipiac class of 2023. Now you, our students, are a big reason that makes Quinnipiac so special. I encourage you to look around and see what else makes Quinnipiac so special. In addition to the terrific peers in your class of 2023, it's your fellow Bobcats in the upper classes and in graduate school, the faculty and staff and coaches who have such amazing diverse skills coming from different disciplines and backgrounds with one single focus on developing the next generation of scientists, teachers, journalists, advertisers, analysts, entrepreneurs, athletes, sociologists, engineers, technologists, performers, musicologists, managers, and leaders. That, by the way, is you. Like those wireless wonders we all carry, a university education is a portal to the world beyond ourselves. But if your phone is a window that lets you look and hear, but never fully experience, a Quinnipiac education is an experience that opens to an entirely new world, a life journey that is different. And that door keeps on opening and opening again and again. That is the wonder of a university education. It'll transform you, will reveal whole new subject areas, countries, cultures you never knew existed. You will become curious and thirsty for more, and you'll want to explore and discover further. You'll be exposed to scholars and fellow students whose range of experience complement yours, surprise you, leave you in awe, sometimes a little anxious, and open new horizons. This is a learning environment that celebrates the ideals of reason, of ethics, of integrity. It helps you discover strong analytic skills and the capacity to see multiple angles that define most issues. There is usually more than one good answer to a complex question, and we need to train ourselves to see those angles, those nuances. If these are skills you don't yet have, I promise you, you will acquire them here. So right about now, you're probably saying to yourself, wait a minute, I came to Quinnipiac because I want to get a job as a fill in the blank. How does this help me become a civil engineer or a business analyst, a teacher or occupational therapist or script writer or whatever it is you want to become? Well, it does. Let me assure you that coming to Quinnipiac is a very smart financial decision. According to a Georgetown University study, the lifetime earnings difference between those who have a college degree and those who graduate just from high school is between $1 million to $4.4 million, depending on the major you choose. And during the recession of 2008, and I think that some of you remember that, according to a study out of Brookings, those with just a high school degree were 4 times more likely to lose their jobs than those who had completed a university education. So yes, there are many reasons to graduate from college, including the fact that it's a very financially savvy decision. Now, Quinnipiac stands out on that dimension. Using Department of Education data, the career site Zippia searched for the college in each state with the highest job placement numbers. Well, guess what? 10 years after students first enrolled in college, in Connecticut, that school is Quinnipiac University. And what's more, Zippia found Quinnipiac to be the top school in the country based on employment rates for getting a job 10 years out, having a job 10 years out after graduation. Yeah. We're also strong enablers of economic mobility. And let's define economic mobility as those graduates who move from the lowest fifth in income as children to the highest fifth as adults. In a landmark study out of Harvard, we're ranked in the top 5% in the nation in economic mobility out of over 2,100 schools. And in income rank at 34, which is pretty much where income relative differences stabilize, we're also ranked in the top 5%. So, this is good news for those who are looking for economic success and job success here at Quinnipiac. Now, if you ask employers what they're looking for, they want new hires who can think on their feet, collaborate across disciplines, work well in teams, and are flexible in the face of change. In short, they want people who can connect, collaborate, and can change. One of the hallmarks of Quinnipiac is its connection to the marketplace and to what employers want and need. And that's why we have such a good track record there. As an institution committed to scholarship, our faculty bring their research right into the classroom so that you'll have the benefit of learning up-to-date concepts that are very relevant to what you'll find in the marketplace. And increasingly, we're also bringing employers into the classroom and taking you, our students, to employers where you can experience firsthand the application of coursework so that that gap between school and work is narrowed. Whether it's internships, immersions, community projects, study abroad, working closely with faculty in labs or case competitions, or hearing from practicing professionals, you will be able to take a deep dive into your chosen field and interests. And since our faculty do partner with each other across disciplines, your learning won't be narrow or siloed. You'll be connected to students from other fields that you'll encounter later on in your jobs. And for these reasons, we find that employers are very attracted to you, our Quinnipiac graduates, when you get there. At the same time, you will discover here on these beautiful campuses a diverse community that is warm and welcoming. You will meet people who did not grow up in your town, who may not look like you or talk like you. And they probably also don't think like you. But that's exactly what makes for a stimulating community. Not the buildings or the food or the residence halls or the athletic fields, though yeah, I get it. Those are all really important. The essence of our university is our people, our students, our faculty, our staff, our alumni, and we are all different. Differences make us stronger. We receive the input of better ideas when people come from different walks of life, and we're more likely to actually hear those ideas if we're not closed-minded. You're here because you want to learn, and learning means broadening our thinking, provoking ourselves into hearing and seeing new things that we didn't see before or know before. And that comes from opening ourselves up to the full richness of our community, even if it sometimes makes us uncomfortable because we've never encountered certain backgrounds or economic differences or disabilities or points of view that we're now hearing. Celebrating differences and through that process, actually finding shared purpose is a gift when it happens, and one that I'm especially proud of here at Quinnipiac. We shouldn't avoid conversations that highlight cultural and political divides. We should not be afraid to encounter challenge or conflict, but we need to do that with civility and respect. There's a difference between stimulating and provocative conversations and those that are designed to offend. There is a difference between exercising free speech versus igniting pain and fear because of aggressiveness of the speech or actions. Please be mindful of those distinctions. Show sensitivity and care in conversation and in action. But do not shy away from exploring differences and being open to the unfamiliar. When you do engage, you will learn, you will grow, you will become a better person, a more interesting, a more curious, more nuanced, more enlightened person. And don't be afraid of failure. You've heard it many times before, failing is a necessary stepping stone to success. This is a very safe environment to test yourself and try new things, and sometimes you'll fail. Here's a quote from Megan, a recent Quinnipiac student who was asked to respond to the question, what should every freshman at QU know before they start? Her response, it won't be easy, this journey you're going to take. At times you're going to want to give up, and at times you actually will. There'll be days that you wake up and catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and have no idea who's looking back at you. You'll lose a sense of who you are, and you'll have no idea who you want to be. You'll become stuck and scared and maybe even angry. This will be one of the greatest tests in your life, more important than any test you'll ever take in a classroom. It'll be a test that will define you, but you will succeed. Keep your heart open, surround yourself with amazing people. It's okay to change, to grow, but always remain true to yourself. Try new things and step out of your comfort zone. Be happy, smile, laugh, give back. And when you find those people and the things that make you happy, never let go. That's from Megan. And let me say, if you do get stuck, we are here for you. There are resources such as the Learning Commons, student services staff, faculty, staff who deeply care about your journey. Don't be afraid to be afraid, and always ask for help when you need it. And remember, you're in a big sandbox here at QU. Play in it. Take courses across campus. Learn about something you know nothing about. Go to a theater performance, the Irish Hunger Museum, a soccer tomorrow at 4 p.m., or a lacrosse game, or eat sushi. And test your leadership skills in a club you join, or in a sorority or a fraternity, in a community project where you champion Quinnipiac. Enjoy the full experience that is QU and grow from it. You're coming at a transformational time of change at QU. This is the year we begin our strategic journey at the University of the Future. And there are 4 pillars to our plan. We're building an institution-wide mindset that prepares you, our graduates, for 21st century careers and citizenship. We are creating an inclusive community driven by excellence. 3, we are nurturing and improving our internal, local, and global communities. And 4, we seek to create a community of lifelong learners. Education will never end. To aid in the process of building an institution-wide mindset that prepares graduates for 21st century's careers and citizenship, this year, 21 new faculty members and 8 new academic coaches and full-time English instructors were hired to support your success. We've signed a new agreement with community colleges to advance inclusive excellence and connections with communities. We're also investing in many facilities improvements, including several that are already completed, some that will be ready over the course of the next several weeks, some that will be done in the spring semester and beyond. So I won't mention them all, but here are a few facility upgrades and additions. 3 renovated residence halls from soups to nuts, which are in process, a new dining hall in North Haven, picnic tables with umbrellas on the quad, a new career advising center in the College of Arts and Humanities, lab renovations all across campus, and we're scoping a new wellness center, a new classroom faculty building, as well as a comprehensive master plan for all facilities on campus that'll be built in the near future. Your journey at Quinnipiac starts today. None of us can say exactly where it'll take you. It should be a journey that doesn't end in 4 years, 5 years, or even 10. Learning is a forever activity. You're going to have, we expect, based on what demographers tell us, 10 different jobs before you turn 40, and 12 to 15 over the course of your career. So very few things are actually permanent, except the absolute need for lifelong learning, and maybe that tattoo on your arm or wherever it happens to be. And there's one more thing that is forever, and that's the Quinnipiac family. You will always be a Bobcat, and you will be a different person. I can't tell you exactly how the next few years will change you, and neither can you. But I assure you, you will change over the next years that you spend at Quinnipiac. You'll discover new things within you, you'll find new purpose, you'll see the world around you with different lens. The next few years will be transformative as you learn about the power of new knowledge, new understandings about the world and about yourself. Here are the key questions I leave with you. Who are you now? Who do you want to be? And how do you want to have impact? I expect that you'll discover those answers here at Quinnipiac. Your journey will be stimulating, transformative, sometimes scary, often unpredictable, a lot of work, tremendous personal growth, and a ton of fun. Every one of us here today is here to help you on that journey as you grow and thrive. Please say hello to me all around campus. Come to my office hours. Let's check each other out at events. And welcome to the Bobcat family. Thank you.
Thank you, President Olien. I am now pleased to introduce Dr. Don C. Sawyer III. Dr. Sawyer is Quinnipiac's Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs and Chief Diversity Officer. He is a tenured Associate Professor of Sociology in the Department of Sociology, Criminal Justice, and Anthropology. Yeah, shout out. Yeah. He leads efforts to support a campus climate that is welcoming and supportive of all members, and he coordinates inclusion-oriented programs and initiatives. Dr. Sawyer teaches Introduction to Sociology, Sociology of Race, Sociology of Education, and Sociology of Hip-Hop Culture. His research interests include urban education, prisoner reentry, visual sociology, youth culture, hip-hop culture, qualitative methods, international program development, and youth critical media literacy. Dr. Sawyer earned his PhD in sociology, his MA in sociology, and his MS in Cultural Foundations of Education from Syracuse University. He earned a BA in psychology from Hartwick College. So I'm very pleased now to welcome to the podium Dr. Don C. Sawyer III.
Walter D. Wendell says, if you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win but think that you can't, it's almost certain you won't. If you think you lose, you're lost, for out of this world we find success begins with the person's will is all in their state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win a prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster woman or man, but sooner or late, the person who wins is the one who thinks that they can. And so I'd like to welcome all of you to, well, I didn't write that, but thank you. So I'm not sure if you are into philosophy, but a famous Canadian philosopher by the name of Aubrey Graham, also known as Drake, also known as the Champagne Poppy, once stated, and I quote, "Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole freaking team here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now my whole freaking team here." Now in this moment of reflection, Drake is excited about his progress in his current spatial location in relation to the bottom. Right? He started at one point with, hard work and talent. He has made it to here, wherever here is for him and his whole freaking team. Not only does he reflect on the distance traveled, but he sheds light on the companionship and the support of his team, traveling from the bottom to here. He understands that it could not have been done alone. Drake had the support of his homies, and through their commitment to his success, the whole team is freaking here. What a touching story. Now, you may be asking yourself, "Self, what is this dude talking about?" Or you may be saying to yourself, "Self, I've never realized how inspirational Drake could be." But Drake and his whole team being here is actually related to your journey, because many of you have started at some form of a bottom, but now you're here. So it doesn't matter if every person in your family went to college or if you're the first one. It doesn't matter if you've breezed through high school or if you had to put in some serious effort. It doesn't matter if you've made it to college right after high school or if your journey took a few turns and you got a few bumps and bruises along the way. What matters is the fact that you are all here. You've had different experiences, you've taken different paths, but yet you're all here today together and starting on this new journey. And it's not a coincidence. All of you deserve to be here. You are meant to be here. You'll be welcomed here. And I hope that throughout your time as a member of the Bobcat Nation, it will be clear that you are seen, that you are heard, and that you matter. If I may call on the brilliance of Drake one more time, he mentions that his whole team is here. And so at times in gatherings such as this, a speaker will get up in front of the room and say, "Look to the left of you and look to the right of you, and someone will not be here in 4 years when you graduate." And that's very uplifting. Not, right? However, if we channel the Champagne Poppy, he would remix the statement and say, "Look to the person on your left and look to the person on your right. And these are the people that you should support along the way so you can all be here in a few years in the same space when you walk across the stage and get that diploma." Thank you. Drake would be so proud of you right now. And so I've had the opportunity to speak with you and your families on a few occasions. I first met some of you at a QU open house. Later, you applied and were admitted and traveled to visit us on an admitted student day program. I then had the opportunity to speak with you during your summer orientation session. And I told you about the times when I was going into school, if I wondered if I made the right choice in school. I told you about the time that I wondered if I would fit in or if people would notice the fresh pair of Jordan 9s I was wearing at the time. Some of you may remember the fact that in my first semester of college, my GPA was a 1.8, and I was 18. And hopefully you remember my warning that you should never be the same age as your GPA, unless you're 30 and older. You know that I experienced culture shock. I was from Harlem in New York City. My parents dropped me off to the school in the middle of upstate New York. I told you about seeing cows, cornfields, deer, hearing crickets. I also realized that there were actual stars in the sky. I was starting over in a new place and I didn't know what to expect. I was interacting with fellow students who came from different religious and socioeconomic backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, racial backgrounds, but I used these opportunities to expand my worldview. At Quinnipiac, our mission is to create a diverse and inclusive community where every member is acknowledged, respected, and has the necessary resources to thrive, both individually and together. Our policies and programs celebrate differences as a source of strength and empower everyone to embrace who they are and share their experiences, customs, beliefs. Our goal is to foster conversation, exposure, and engagement with all people, thoughts, and ideas from all corners of the world. And you don't have to have this all figured out right now because this is your time to grow. This is your time to take chances while being supported, and that's what matters. And as I come to a close, I want to leave you with a quote and a poem that I think is important as you begin this journey. And the quote by Mark Twain. He says, "The two most important days in life are the day that you were born and the day that you find out why." And hopefully you'll have an opportunity to find out your why while you're celebrating this time with us here today. And the poem, it's called "What Will Matter" by Michael Josephson. And he says, "Ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There will be no more sunrises, no minutes, hours, or days. All the things you collected, whether treasured or forgotten, will pass on to someone else. Your wealth, fame, temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. It will not matter what you owned or what you owed. Your grudges, resentments, frustrations, and jealousies will finally disappear. So too your hopes, ambitions, plans, and to-do lists will expire. The wins and losses that once seemed so important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from or what side of the tracks you lived on in the end. It won't matter whether you were beautiful or brilliant. Even your gender and skin color will be irrelevant. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you brought, but what you built. Not what you gave, not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people you knew, but how many people will feel a lasting loss when you're gone. What will matter is not your memories, but the memories of those who loved you. What will matter is how long you will be remembered by whom and for what. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but of choice. So choose a life that matters. And so in closing, this is the time for you to push yourself. This is your chance to take risks. This is your chance to move beyond your boundaries and perceive limitations and see what this world and this university has to offer you. In 4 years or so, when you're here again walking across the stage to get your diploma, I want you to be able to look back and say that QU is a better place because of what you contributed. I also want you to be able to look back and say that you are a better person because of your experiences here. We are grateful and excited that you have decided to start this journey with us. And again, welcome to the class of 2023 and Bobcat Nation.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Next, I am pleased to introduce Austin Calvo, your president of the Student Government Association, the SGA, for the 2019-20 academic year. Austin is a political science major and has focused his work as president on making SGA more accessible and transparent, while working with the University President's Office to increase communication between the student body and the administration. In 2019-20, Austin hopes to create opportunities for dialogue in which people with different viewpoints may voice and share possibilities. In the second half of his sophomore year and as a junior, Austin served as the vice president for student experience, and he has worked tirelessly to amplify the student body's voice. Austin, who also served as student body president in high school, is from Oregon. One more nice thing I must say, Austin. We are delighted to be partnering with Austin as the president of the SGA, and it is my honor to introduce him as our next Welcome Weekend speaker. Austin.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Dean Brown, for the kind words. My name is Austin Calvo. I'm a senior political science major from Independence, Oregon, and my pronouns are he, him, and his. I want to take a quick opportunity to thank some pretty amazing people in this space before I get started today. In addition to being president of the Student Government Association, which is obviously why I'm here, I also serve as one of the interns for this year's orientation program. I have had the privilege to be an orientation leader throughout the past 3 years, and this experience has taught me countless life lessons. I have walked out of every single summer a different and better person than I was walking into it. Every single part of that growth is because of the amazing people sitting around you in their York Hill sky blue polos. Without the orientation staffs throughout the year, I wouldn't have been challenged and pushed to become the man that I am today, and I definitely wouldn't be standing here on this stage in front of you all. You all deserve countless thanks for what you do. So thank you. I've also had the privilege of being involved in so many different things that Quinnipiac has to offer during my time here, from Greek life to the Global Engagement Fellowship to Residence Hall Council. But the most fulfilling and the most humbled I've been in my involvement is my time serving on the Student Government Association. When I first found out that I was elected as SGA president, I was ecstatic, obviously, but I also just kept thinking over and over again, what do I have to share that 1,600 incoming students need to hear? I didn't want this to come off like I'm lecturing you. I'm only 3 years older than y'all, and you don't need to be lectured by me. I mean, what do I know? I ate a bag of Doritos for dinner last night. But I wanted it to be impactful and meaningful. With all of this in mind, I decided the best way to do this was through a story from my life, how it changed me, what I learned from it, and hopefully what you can learn from it. Only 2 people at Quinnipiac know the story that I'm about to share. You may be surprised that I would share something this personal and intimate with a room full of 1,600 strangers, but Quinnipiac has changed my life. The orientation program and the orientation leaders sitting around you, along with so many more people here, have done so much for me, which is why I feel comfortable sharing this story. If my story can affect even a few of you in a positive way, I will have given back to this community that has given so much to me. I had it all going into my senior year of high school. I was a 2-sport varsity athlete and playing the Grinch in Seussical the Musical in my off-season. I was president of Model United Nations, chief editor of the yearbook, National Honor Society member, and as Dean Brown pointed out, student body president. This isn't me trying to brag about how cool I was in high school, because it definitely doesn't matter anymore. I'm just trying to give you some perspective. I really felt like I had it all, and I was ready to have the best senior year of high school. Some of my close friends started shoplifting from stores right at the beginning of senior year. While I was still friends with them, I never wanted to do it for a million reasons. It was illegal, it was wrong, and like I just said, I had a lot to lose. However, as the weeks went on and I saw my friends get away with it so easily, it became harder to resist their offers to come along. On top of that, my family has never had money, and we've always struggled to get by, which had a huge impact on my decision. If I didn't have to ask my mom for money for clothes or a backpack for school or whatever, I felt like that would help my family's financial situation. In retrospect, my logic wasn't exactly the best at the time, but while I completely knew it was the stupidest thing I could have done, and nearly everything in my life was telling me no, I was convinced to go along with my friends one time. I'll never forget the time we got caught. Me and my two best friends went. It was October of our senior year. We had a choir concert later that night, and we thought we could make it to the mall and back before our choir concert. It was our fall showcase, and we needed a black button-down that I didn't own. So I went to a store to shoplift one. While I was there with one of my friends, our other friend went to a different store. After we had left, we kept trying to call her over and over again. Eventually, we just went out to the car to wait for her to come back or find us. And then I got a phone call from my friend, who was with a police officer that had just finished dealing with her after she was caught. He wanted me and my other friend to come in now. I had to sit there with a police officer and a manager of the mall signing an agreement that I understood that I was banned from that mall for a year. The second I answered that phone call from my friend who was crying, I thought my life was over and that I was the one who had ruined it. The next 2 weeks were a blur for me. I'm from a very small town, and everyone I knew found out almost immediately. And I lost pretty much everything I cared about. I was forced to resign from being student body president, and I was kicked out of National Honor Society. Having to resign from being student body president was probably the most difficult part of it. I remember having to sign this paper saying that I was resigning, and it was almost impossible to force myself to do it, because that made it real. That made everything I had done and all of the consequences that I was facing so very real. The other big thing, which I didn't even realize until about a month after, was how this affected my reputation in town. I didn't come from some prominent family that people recognized the last name of. I worked so hard for every single positive connection to my name. About a month after everything happened, one of my friends and I that was with me that night were supposed to work an event selling Christmas trees as a fundraiser for our senior trip. And we were told we couldn't work unless an adult was with us because we couldn't be trusted. Before that moment, I don't think I was ever told in my life that I couldn't be trusted. It hurt, and it hurt a lot. And it just reminded me that everyone knew this about me, and I couldn't get away from it. I think our generation, very obviously myself included, have a problem with realizing that our actions have consequences. This was one of the first times in my life that I really realized how much something I did can affect me and my future. This isn't to say that I just skated by my entire life with no consequences for my actions, but this was the first major mistake I had made that had major repercussions. At the time, and probably still, this was the hardest thing I had ever gone through in my life. I know, I brought it all upon myself, and I knew the consequences of what I was doing while I was doing it, but that didn't change how hard it was in the moment. Like I said, this happened in the fall of my senior year, which, as I'm sure you all know, is the most critical time for college applications, scholarships, and everything else about college. But I was completely demoralized. I didn't even want to apply to college anymore because I didn't think I would even get in, especially to schools out of state, which is where I wanted to go. You know when you go on Comm app or any college application and there's that little button you have to click if you've ever been committed of a crime? I now had to go back through every single one of my in-process applications and click yes. I was lucky enough that since I was 17 that it's now off my record and won't affect anything in my future. But my best friend, who had turned 18 5 days prior, wasn't so lucky, and this is something that's been following her since it happened. It's something I felt like was going to make every college I was applying to deny me on the spot. I thought my life was over at the age of 17 because of one careless decision I had made. But my mom, who despite being very disappointed in me and my bad decision, was my rock throughout this whole thing. When I told her what I'd done, she said, "I know it doesn't seem like it now, but one day you're going to look back on this and realize that this isn't the end." She made me finish all of my applications, even to schools that were really far away and she didn't want me to go to, like this one. She read through all of my applications for school and scholarships and everything else to make sure it was good enough. And it was good enough, because here I am today. Even with everything against me, I was lucky enough to get into schools and eventually decide on Quinnipiac as my new home and my future. Coming here was a true opportunity to restart. It was a chance to get out of my small town where everyone knew everything about everybody. It was my chance to be whoever and whatever I wanted to be, and to not let one decision from my past control my life and my opportunities. Quinnipiac has given me every opportunity I could imagine. In my time here, I have significantly surpassed who I thought I could be the morning after my friends and I were caught. Like I said, I thought that my life was over. And now, I stand here as one of the first openly gay student body presidents, an intern of the orientation program, with a plan to attend law school and break the cycle of poverty in my family. So what was the point of all this? It definitely wasn't for you to go out and commit a crime and hope for the best in the end. It wasn't that you have to hide things about yourself when you come to college. It wasn't that you have to come here and be super involved. If you didn't get anything else out of my story, I hope you walk away with these 3 things. First, call your family, or whoever in your life is important to you. While you'll be here having the time of your life in your first year, remember who helped you get here, who fought for you at every turn to make sure you had the best life, even and especially if that person was yourself. For me, that was my mom, and I have no idea where I'd be right now without her. Second, this is your chance to be whoever the hell you want to be. If you loved who you were in high school, keep being that person, and you'll find people here who love who you are too. But if you hated who you were in high school, a reputation you had, or a nickname, or anything else, now is your chance to change that. Like our student body creed says, we are the architects of our own future, not anyone else. Ever since my orientation in 2016, that was my favorite line of the creed. I loved the power to change my future that Quinnipiac instilled in me from the first seconds I walked onto this campus. Third, take risks. Hopefully not illegal ones, but don't come in with expectations. Let your story unfold. Let college happen to you. But that doesn't mean you can just sit in your room playing Fortnite and watching Netflix all day and expect to have a great college experience. You have to be willing to take those risks. Run for SGA, apply for that internship, rush that Greek organization. You have to put yourself out there. College has taught me a lot of things, and by far, the most important lesson that I have learned is that everything happens for a reason. My story happened to me for a reason. Every single one of my failures has led me to my successes. Ultimately, regardless of who you were in high school, use this opportunity of being in a new place with 1,600 new people in your graduating class alone to just be yourself. Your background does not define you. How you react and what you do in times of adversity does. We are the architects of our future. We make our own choices to create the life that we want. This is your Quinnipiac now. Don't waste a second of this amazing experience. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, isn't he amazing?